Prostrations to Ramana, shining as the self in all beings. By the immense grace of the self manifest as Ramana, we at Ramanacentre Center for Learning Bengaluru are celebrating our 45th National Seminar and Cultural Festival, and as a part of this event, from the year 2009 onwards, we also celebrate the Founders' Day. The Founders' Day, which is the 23rd of January, commemorates and is a tribute to the founder president of our center, Sri A.R.Natarajan. On this day, we remember not only his love for Bhagavan, his passion for Bhagavan Ramana, but his extraordinary dedication to his vision, his passion for his vision to take Ramana to one and all. The vision of the center to take Ramana to one and all through every possible means. The primary one was the establishing of the meditation hall and the shrine of Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi, which is situated near Mekri Circle, which he lovingly called the Ramana Shakti Peetham. And this is a center, a unique center in Bengaluru, where people can come and meditate. They can spend their time in the silence of Bhagavan Ramana's presence. And then he went on to establish the Ramana Maharshi Heritage Campus, including the Ramana Maharshi Heritage Auditorium, a cultural hub, a heart space for taking Ramana and the Indian heritage, which is essentially Ramana, which is essentially a celebration of the self to one and all through the cultural forms available to us, music, dance, dance drama and other forms. And then Sri A.R.Natarajan's heart was given to writing. He would write, and he wrote till his last breath practically. And there are more than 150 publications in English, as well as translations of these in Tamil, in Kannada, in Telugu, and a few in Hindi as well. Sri A.R.Natarajan also initiated the organ called the Ramana Way, a monthly journal, initially started as a newsletter to connect with other members of the Ramana family, and which blossomed very soon into a full-fledged journal dedicated completely to the life and teachings of Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi. He also infused joy and energy into the cultural movement, which started with the music wing, Ramananjali, which had as its mother Srimati Sulochana Natarajan, and which then went on to expand into the arenas of dance and dance drama. Sri A.R.Natarajan was the backbone of every activity of Ramana Maharshi Center for Learning, and he continues to be the inspiration and the life force in all that happens at Ramana Maharshi Center for Learning. Very dear to him, and a new way of relating to Bhagavan and Bhagavan's teachings that Sri A.R.Natarajan initiated were the workshops on self-enquiry and the seminars on the life and teachings of Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi came to be a major way of relating to Bhagavan and sharing his life and teachings with everyone. And we are now celebrating the 45th in the line of national seminars from the center. We will commence the celebration of the Founders' Day with a prayer which is from our archives by our young devotees. The prayer by Ujwal, Jagadeesh and Revathi Sankar.
Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. O moon of grace, with your cool rays, touch my heart and open the floodgates of nectar within.
Now fragrant as a flower is my mind. Add to it your fragrance perfect,
And let it remain infinite. Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. Look at me, think of me, touch me, make me fit, ripen me, then my master be, govern me. Look at me, think of me, touch me, and make me fit, ripen me, then my master be, govern me, 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 govern me. Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. In the house of open space, where neither night nor day there is, come let's sport in bliss. In the house of open space, where neither night nor day there is, come let's sport in bliss. Come let's sport in bliss. Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. Me from my house you entered, my heart chamber entered, little by little revealed your freedom infinite. Me from my house you entered, my heart chamber entered, little by little revealed your freedom infinite, 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 infinite. Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala.
Today's celebration of the Founders' Day will commence with a talk by Sri S. Krishnaswamy, who was our founder secretary and a soulmate of Sri A.R.Natarajan. In this talk, which we are bringing to you again from our archives, Sri Krishnaswamy brings out the quintessential vision, the quintessential A.R.Natarajan. What did he stand for? What drove him and what became the manifestation of Ramanacentre Center for Learning and all its activities, including the purpose behind the essence of every one of these activities. We are very happy to make this, in this sense, a homage to our dear secretary, who was also absorbed in Bhagavan last year, by presenting his understanding of Bhagavan's life and teachings and his very special, very precise, intuitive approach to Ramana Maharshi Center for Learning and his regard and love for its founder, Sri A.R.Natarajan.
Dear fellow devotees, it gives me extremely great pleasure to be a part of today's function, styled as celebrating the Founders' Day. It is worth recalling the birth pangs of an institution which is running into its 35th year, very vibrant and going strong under the dynamic leadership of Dr. Sarada. It was in 1977, nearly 37 years ago, a South Indian family descended on the city of Bangalore. People did not know that they had a mission on hand and a mandate on their shoulders. It was Mr. A.R.Natarajan and his family, the young and energetic family. One side of it was that Mr. Natarajan was being transferred as a Commissioner of Income Tax, Bangalore. That was one part of it. Only professionals were interested in that. There was the other part, the mandate and the mission they seemed to have. So the first occasion that I had to meet Mr. Natarajan, the founder, was one of the satsangs. They immediately got into action as soon as they descended on Bangalore. It was in the form of satsangs in various devotees' houses. In one such house, Sankar house, I believe, that I met Mr. Natarajan for the first time on the other side. I had met him as a Commissioner of Income Tax on the other side. That is not, he was known as a man of impeccable integrity and high personal manners. And therefore, he endeared himself to all those who knew him and who were about to know him. And so, therefore, it was God's gift that I soon got associated with him. And within a matter of 2 years, the satsangs got into a shape, a legal form. A society was formed named as Ramanacentre for Learning. And the first inaugural session was in the Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, and the chief guest was Chinmayanandji. Chinmayanandji said, I'm astonished, what? A Ramana Center for Learning. For learning. Ramana is associated not with learning, with his silence, he thought. A center for learning, he exclaimed. And then he said, I'm surprised that I'm such a vocacious man. I speak all the time, all 24 hours. And you want me to talk on a man of silence. And this is something which I cannot understand, he said. And then I had the privilege of proposing a vote of thanks. In a very late way, and I said, we have a Messiah, suddenly, to help those who are hungry for philosophic education. And here is a person who has conducted several Gita yajnas. Through Gita yajnas, he has put millions of people into silence, and therefore it is very appropriate that a man who has put millions of people into silence should be called upon to inaugurate this center. I said it in a lighter way. But the silence that I spoke on that day was not silence associated with Ramana Maharshi. One has to understand silence when it comes to a Maharshi. I can relate my own experience. Dr. Sarada referred to my association with the Sringeri Math. Before that, Mr. Natarajan had association with the Sringeri Gurus. He had association with the Ramakrishna monks. He had a spiritual bent of mind. And therefore, when he came to Bangalore, not only people accepted his leadership qualities, his organizational ability, and also a high level of credibility. High level of credibility. He had soaked himself in Ramana literature. He was, if I can use the word, a fundamentalist in the term, a fundamentalist in the sense, absolute clarity of thought, impeccable commitment to Ramana movement. And when I associated with him, I also started delving into Ramana literature. Also, I had a very, very scanty familiarity with Ramana literature. But I knew what silence is all about. It was one day in Sringeri that across the river Tunga, people said Chandrasekhara Bharati was a Jivan Mukta. He had come out of his Antarmukhi state and he is available for darshan. He came out. I was simply thrilled. I thought that I had no chance to see God in my life. What is the use of reading all Vedic literature? You can read any literature, philosophical literature, get entertained by it and get illumined by it. Possible. But something that is beyond you and me is that you can never see God. So when he came out and I saw him for the first time, please believe me when I say, the thrill that I went through my entire system is something indescribable. People beside me said, "What, sir? Yenna sir, yenna sir, yenna sir," somebody is saying. Yenna sir. You see somebody, you are turned inside out. You see something coming out, what you call the Atman, Atmanubhava, Atma Darshana, whatever you call it. You see something tremendous. He was the very abode of silence, very abode of silence. The silence that can wash away all your sufferings, all your pain, all your wrong notions of this life, etc., etc. Suddenly I found what merit I had to see this person. He was speechless, without speaking a word. He is simply standing, static, without any dimensions. You feel he is not attached to earth. You see a Jivan Mukta. That is the very definition of a Jivan Mukta. You cannot understand a Jivan Mukta unless you see one, unless you confront one. He simply turned you out. And Vivekananda says, what is a guru? A guru is nothing but an externalized Atman. If you want to see Atman, how can you see Atman? How can you experience Atman? How can it comes in a form intelligible to you? Your senses have limited perceptions, limited cognition abilities. You cannot imagine. This is beyond imagination, beyond thinking, beyond a thought process. You have heard in Tripura Rahasya, what it says is, face to face with the tiger, the mind sets aside, goes aside, and you run. Instinctively you run. That is instinct. That is fear. When suffering overtakes you, you forget the entire life. All your thoughts recede, allows you to suffer. Because thoughts don't, the mind doesn't want to work at that point of time. These are different states of silence. When you are simply silenced by terror, when you are simply silenced by suffering. There is another way. When you are silenced by something that illumines your thoughts. It's something that fills you totally with joy. Totally with joy. All your sufferings are awash in a moment as if. So therefore, that sense of silence, that perception of silence was something which I can never forget. Now I know what exactly is silence. Silence is not the spoken word. Silence is not to be associated with dullness. It is not jada. It is not jada. It is not dullness. It is not passive. It is very creative. It is very creative. The creative spark within you is simply ignited. Is simply ignited. So therefore, let us not confuse the silence which I said in my vote of thanks and the silence that I perceived when I was face to face with the Jivan Mukta. That was great indeed. So therefore, with this background of silence, and this silence associated with Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi, then I thought there is something more into this movement of Ramana movement with Mr. A.R. Natarajan was addicted to. It is, that's the correct word. It's a sort of an addiction. For example, take the case of HMR, who came first to Bhagavan. She had a tale of tears. She has a tale of tears. There comes a moment in everyone's life, for God is not in a hurry, where whatever you do in life seems to be failing you. Whatever you do in life does not solve your problems. Whatever you do in life, suffering stares at you. What can you do at that point of time? Is there some inadequacy in what you are doing? What is that insufficiency? that insufficiency. What is that insufficiency? That small spark of divine life, that small help, the divine help that you are seeking, who will give that to you? You are insufficient. I am inadequate. I know. I am inadequate in my prayers. I am insufficient in understanding the whole concept of God. God only wants love. There's no other method of reaching God other than love. Love is the only method. He does not want any praise. But suffering is a price that you pay sometimes to achieve something far greater than suffering. So when H.M.All was face to face with him, suddenly what happened to H.M.All was that all her grief appeared to be very trivial compared to the floodgates of joy that immediately opened up. The whole suffering was awash. Suffering was nowhere there. Suddenly she felt the price that she had paid to get this was worth indeed. That was the first incident that evoked in my mind. Then what do you do for this? How do you come to have a darshan of a Jivan Mukta? Second, see here itself you see that there is a duality. One duality is, Bhagavan tells Devaraja Madaliyar, everything is predetermined. Putting on a switch is predetermined. My talking to you this evening is determined. Your listening to me is also predetermined. Everything is predetermined. This is part of your karma. Prarabdha karma, okay. It's part of your karma. So therefore, Devaraja Madaliyar says, is there no escape from this? This is the same confrontation which Arjuna speaks to Krishna. Is there freedom of choice? Or is it determination? Both questions are answered by Bhagavan. Determination. Everything is predetermined. You have nothing, you cannot battle it out. Take it from you cannot battle it out. Bhagavan says you cannot battle it out. You have to go through that. Okay, if there are hot showers on your body predetermined, the Guru can only put cold showers on that, but the hot showers will be there. Okay, something like that. See, the other side of it, he said, what's the freedom you have at all in life? The freedom, he says, the freedom of choice, Krishna tells Arjuna, is only to go back to your source and to identify the non-self from the self. This is the core of Ramana philosophy. And Ramana repeatedly said, who am I, inquiry. This inquiry is not an intellectual inquiry. It's some sort of a cognitive inquiry. It is something that the entire 650 chemicals in a human brain, or about 3 or 4 lakh genes in a human brain, everything should be attuned to this freedom. The freedom is you can go only to the source and say, this is not myself. Karma is not my part of life. I have some other part. The other part, I can only go to the source. The inquiry is the only freedom of choice you have. You don't have any other choice. And therefore, what do you do in a circumstance like this? How do you get hold of a Jivan Mukta to see that you get rid of all your sufferings and you find your identity? So then it occurred to Sri A.R.Natarajan that we should have a shrine. We should have a temple. We should have a place where this type of vibrations are generated within the devotees. And therefore, he tried his hard to get a site for Ramanacentre Center for Learning. I am a witness, privy to the effort that he put in to get that site and to put up a construction there. And then the question was, what type of shape this temple should have? Should it look like a mountain? Or you have a mountain, you just scoop out and build a temple within. Some sort of a thing like this. We had an architect called Mr. Srinivasan from Madras who came and gave the design, and that is how the design was ultimately finalized. That's how, within a matter of 2 years, this shrine came into existence. Ramanacentre Center for Learning, this shrine came into existence. And now then there's a long story. And then the centenary celebrations was to be done. And it's fortunate that we had Mr. Natarajan, the secretary of that celebrations committee, who was in Madras, and Bangalore took the center stage of Ramana centenary celebrations. In the center stage now, there were many things that had to be done. There was a musical group that was going around all the houses doing satsang. Satsang is nothing but association with truth. Nothing but truth. with truth. Now, there are many more methods, modalities of reaching the God, of reaching Bhagavan, of reaching Ramana Maharshi. One such mode is what the invocation taught you, that is only through music. Only through music you can teach millions of people. You should entertain them, and through entertainment you should pass on a message. Message, you should entertain the mind, and in the guise of entertaining the mind, you should deceive the mind and to see that it gets some sprinkling of music, some sprinkling of God's message, some sprinkling of a means of love, a method of love to God. How do you love God? How do you love God? Through entreaties, through music. And then for the nucleus that was formed in the various satsangs, then shaped into what we call Ramananjali group, under the able leadership of Mrs. Sulochana Natarajan, who had a fantastic musical background. She could sing, she could compose, she could bring together people, teach them. She had many traits. What do you say? The many strands in a cable you have, You have the audio, you have the video, you have everything, You have all the strands built into a cable. She was veritably the musical cable of Ramananjali. And Ramananjali is going to celebrate its 500th concert shortly, and we are very happy to say about it. And therefore, thereafter, we had the coming into existence of the Ramana strain, and the centenary celebrations started. And we had part of Ramana centenary celebrations, a series of conferences, a series of workshops, a series of symposiums, a series of publications. And that is how the Ramana movement was built up in Bangalore. Afterwards, his idea was to have what you call another center for Ramana, the Heritage Center. The Heritage Center, as the name itself implies, is that which you inherit. The inherited values should be embodied in a place where they could be demonstrated. As usually we say, when we refer to a temple, we say a temple is a place where you demonstrate the truth of the Vedas and the Upanishads. It's a demonstration center. You need a center where you demonstrate the teachings of Ramana Maharshi in various methods and modes, most appealable to the devotees. And the Heritage Center came into existence after a very hard struggle. We had a site, and the site that was given was cancelled. On that day, I was in Natarajan's chamber. He literally broke down. He cried like a child when he said it is being cancelled. And thereafter he persisted, and of course his persistence played, and then we have a beautiful building, the Ramana Heritage Center, where cultural activities are being carried on. Dr. Sarada said I should speak something about Ramana philosophy. I know how limited I am in my resources to speak on Ramana philosophy. Ramana philosophy is being spoken to by people better equipped in that direction than me. So I thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to you on this occasion. Thank you all.
As a part of the main presentation today, we have two more very sweet treasures from our archives. One is an introduction to Ramananjali, which is the theme of today's seminar. What is Ramananjali that we are celebrating? Ramananjali is the poetical outpouring of the experience of Ramana. And hence it was very dear to Sri A.R.Natarajan, our founder. And it is the musical form given to this poetical outpouring by Srimati Sulochana Natarajan, who is the mother of Ramananjali, who combined together the poetical offerings by and on Bhagavan by great poet saints like Ganapathi Muni, Muruganar Swami, Sadhu Swami, Shiva Prakasham Pillai, Satyamangalam Venkatrama Iyer, Manavasi Ramaswamy Iyer, Shuddhananda Bharati, and several others who had Ramana Darshanam, as she called it, like herself. She put together their poetry, gave them musical form herself, and under the guidance of our founder, Sri A.R.Natarajan, she got several eminent music directors of our time to give the musical form to these poetical outpourings, and she compiled all of them together. She put them together as one body of music which is potentially infinite but which today contains a repertoire of 2000 songs in the original languages of Tamil, Telugu, Sanskrit, some even in Kannada, English, and their translations into Telugu, Malayalam, into Gujarati, Marathi, Hindi, several languages. She compiled all this together as a body of music. Today we have Sri A.R.Natarajan giving us an introduction to what Ramananjali is. One of the sweet treasures, as I said, from our archives, and this will be followed by a program which we held in a national seminar, a program which was just before our very significant 500th program. This program was followed by a program at Thiruvannamalai, the penultimate, the 499th, during which the president, the then president of Sri Ramanashram, Sri D.S. Ramanan said, this is the 499th program of Ramananjali, but to me, right from the first program till this program, every program has been just the same. It has been just as full of love for Bhagavan and just as enjoyable for me, because he was a great devotee of Bhagavan. So on this occasion, we remember our founder, Sri A.R.Natarajan, with love and reverence, and we invoke the presence of Ramana that infused the founder members, Sri A.R.Natarajan, Sri Krishnaswamy, Srimati Sulochana Natarajan, with the passion and the energy to start and continue and give a beautiful form to Ramana Maharshi Center for Learning, one aspect of which we are celebrating today, which is the Ramanajali music. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramana.
அண்ணாமலை ரமணன் அன்பகருண்மானே கண்ணாலே பெய்யும் கருணை திறம்பாடி அண்ணாமலை ரமணன் அன்பகருண்மானே கண்ணாலே பெய்யும் கருணை திறம்பாடி எண்ணாதல எண்ணி எங்கடிய
ज्योतिर्मयं शाश्वतं स्थानं प्राप्य विराजते जनमतां अज्ञानमुन्मूलयन् पश्यन् विश्वमपीतमुल्लसतिरो विश्वस्य पारे परः तस्मै श्रीरमण लोकगुरवे शोकस्य हन्त्रे नमः. This is a composition of Vasishtha Ganapathi Muni. The meaning of it briefly is that we are surrounded by darkness of ignorance. That limited point I am only taking, not talking about the philosophy of that. Now we find a situation where we are surrounded by music. Surrounds are there everywhere. Mobiles have brought music to every ear. And as the mobile phones are anticipatedly going to increase in their multiplicity, the totality of awareness of music is there. At the same time, not one of these mobile operators give any spiritual channels. Spirituality, I don't know whether it's a taboo or it does not sell. It is not as given as a value. Nowadays, you find a strong strength of rhythm in almost everybody, because when we had one program here, one 3-year-old boy, see, we don't allow outside my orchestra, but once there was an outside orchestra with, the usual drums and all that, 3-year-old boy standing and jumping. So a strong sense of rhythm is there. It means somehow, and even in the good old days, Jagadeesh sang a song called Suga Suga Mudanga Talamu. Like that it goes. So, and people used to ask, the Vidwans used to ask for money if they want for the performance. Or somebody like Palani or some artist who will uplift their music. So this was but now in spite of all this, all the music sabhas and the monthly programs of the organizations for dance or even by famous people, music or dance, are deserted. Nobody is interested. Only if it's a festival, corporate festival, funded by corporates, there will be a lot of well-known names. So the basic problem seems to be, have the culture verse, which is so beautiful in its very essence, so fulfilling to a human being, why has it become so narrowly constrained? So narrowly constrained. Few takers, busy, and in the face of a lot of interest in music. What is this contradiction? Where is it that, and how is it that we can bridge this gap? I had a discussion some time ago with a person in whom I have great confidence. She told me that this is knowledge-oriented and therefore it will always to be to some extent elitist. It cannot be generally accepted. The elitist connotation means that belongs to those who know, who have been trained in Carnatic classical music or in Bharatanatyam or any of the well-known dance art forms. They alone can appreciate. Given this factor of limitation of appreciation of the audience, it is difficult to spread, or the scope for is limited. That is one point which was made. I have been thinking about that, whether it is limited and what extent it is. But when you were young, we used to attend many of these temple concerts. Thousands used to sit. They were all Tanga Modi Kacheris, they used to be called. That is just the musicians themselves won't be interested in what is being paid, except little prasada will be given by the temple authorities. And it's hours together, 3.5 hours, 4.5 hours, nothing. The musicians used to, and it was such a happy atmosphere. I don't know how many of them were technically qualified, but they had been created in a mood of bhakti, spirituality. When the mood is created, when there is no need for, here even now, you see, even Ram Navami Utsava or Ganesh Utsava, people do come. Either there is affordability, I don't know what it is. Why is it that it has to be a limited kind of, and then if it can be there for some time, why cannot be more widespread? Why cannot we take this music and dance of ours? It's so enriching, so life-giving to more homes, to more people. So they may get involved. And this is not an involvement of the time in which they are already musician. Another difficulty when we talked about Ramana music, the same friend, close friend, told me the composers have composed their own songs, the Trinity. And thanks to Simangudi Mama, to a lesser extent, Swati Tirunal has also been accepted. But beyond that, it is very difficult because Bhagavan has not composed his music, it came out of inspiration. It's the sage's words. And by that standard, she said, only Muruganar probably will qualify because he has put it into Pant style. All is that musical tradition called Pant. Therefore, it can be called composition by the composer. And the difference he said was that the kritis are already set and they will sing accordingly. That is, if you take any song, when they will sing, they may have their manodharmas, but they will not, but they will be in the four corners of that. Now the problem here is, it's also linked with what is called oral parampara. Jagadeesh had his sishyas. So did Dikshidhar and Syama Shastri. In the absence of proper oral tradition also, music will not be accepted. Oral tradition is required for sampradaya to be accepted by the sampradaya as part and parcel of the essence of Carnatic classical music or dance songs. So this is another aspect which I would like you to consider, because even though they are all set to particular type of frameworks, we have a project for preservation of Carnatic classical music. From spools we are converting these classical concerts in the spools into CDs. So I am enriched by listening to so much of music, because listening is very important for anything. We have no time, that's a basic problem maybe. Unless you listen and enjoy and get into the mood of it, if you sing, if you hear Sri Subramanyaya Namaste, it's a very famous song. All the giants have sung. Adi Kudi sings in one way. He sings in another way. Maria, M.D. Ramanathan in another way. All the same particular song is the skill of the artist. This is Manodharma's competence that makes it possible. So for instance, though Bhagwan's song is not, these words are so much strength in them, so much power because of Bhagwan's own words. So if you take that song in Padigam, Ujwal word, we will simply use the Ujwal vaadum makkalil enbal Udi. We are going to play it. Udiyam yadu kanda. These are the words which why have you picked me among thousands of people in this world? And why have you graced me? How can I repay your gratitude? These songs have been set by the music director of this place, Sarada Natarajan, and it is all in books. So the book availability is there. So he took that song from those which were given to him. But he has sung all those great ones. We have got some 4 CDs of them. Have used the same kritis, even lesser peoples, into beautiful songs, which we are going to play on the audio system. How the words, if they have the intrinsic power, the power of the word is important. The Jagadeesh's greatness is not only in the fact that he set his compositions to music, but also in the fact that he was rooted in that, he was immersed in that. He was immersed in those kritis. And therefore, he could sing those songs. And even this now, if you hear some songs which are full of meaning, Musidi Subramaniar, he has just only a tanbura, Nadopasana, going to play. Chese Nadopasana. See, it is just the numbers, you will be hearing it. Yes, Ambura, it just takes in, no need, no violin, no mridangam, no disturbance. See, Mike used to be called by Palgat Mani as Asuran. So he didn't want to be disturbed by the distortion of sounds of the count system. That was the extent to which they used to go. They were involved in that. Adikudi Ramanajali is one who set the whole Carnatic classical music into some kind of pattern. In Ariyakudi, this song will be appreciated better by those who know the Tyagaraja Charitram. Tyagaraja's elder brother Jagadeesh, as his things would have, was in complete contrast. He was a totally worldly man and disgusted with the ways of his younger brother, who seemed to be so totally on guard and not at all bothered about how he is going to carry on his life.
In a worldly way. So in this mode, in this two-way worshipful image of Lord Rama, he is doing a story. And those ones when moving songs are there, originated with the Mother, and in fact, I think that song was a trend. That song was also very usefully heard by anybody. Ramanajali.
Ramana You come walking wanting to take care of me. Because the song is that play here, what we stand back and in the stand. In the stand, the solid is we found the idol. So, I will get that in a beautiful way. See the Pradhanya of music is bhakti. And so far as the music of today is characterized by more intellectualism than bhakti. Intellectualism has taken hold of the musicians themselves, the permutations, combinations, the various kind of situations, because minds are highly developed. All the youngsters' minds are highly developed. social communication. But at the same time, very hard to enjoy this. So this is a situation where we are, if you want to spread any kind of culture, it has to be at the grassroots, not at the top. You are trying to say. At the grassroots, just as the teacher must start with what we may call Ramanajali, not essentially different. You will begin at the beginning.
Sari Gama Pada Ni Sa. Sari Gama Pada Ni Sa. Arunachala Shiva. Arunachala Shiva. Arunachala Shiva. Arunachala Shiva. Arunachalam ena ahame ninaipavar. Arunachalam ena ahame ninaipavar. Ahathai verarupai Arunachala. Ahathai verarupai Arunachala. Malayali Tarunachala Ramanayan. Malayali Tarunachala Ramanayan. Malayanindarul Arunachala. Malayanindarul Arunachala.
You will begin at the beginning and it will devote itself and the capacity and versatility to get it across to us. So I am sure that when we say a new state is nothing, new is something which makes you think about various things. Classicism is cannot be rejected. In the same, so you find some of these dance, the modern dancers, well-known, gradually heroism has come in this form of what's called modern, not, well, I don't want to say much about that. There is deterioration in the purpose of God.
To learning process, the children are very, very intelligent. They can grasp, because both the parents are matured now. No ladies being put down under the thumb. All modern couples, they have got the children who are very, very intelligent. There is no doubt about that. Therefore, their exposure at the right age, when they are young, to the beauty of Ramana's in every way. He is life. You see, when life is means it's a totality. It is not divisive. It's not A, B or C or D. Life is a totality. In this totality, he reigns supreme. In Vedas, he reigns supreme. Vedas is Pushaha. He is the one. And therefore, where is he not? Does he, the soul of all music, be a contradiction to it? No. Nothing in it can be a contradiction to what all you believe, what all you subscribe to. So, it is that His Grace is celebrating his 125th birth year. We were so enamored of it. It's maybe originally it is first year is over. We are extending it. 3-year plan it is now. We don't know how many years plan it will be. Because the more you serve the Supreme Force, the more he gives. So this is a kind of truth which we cannot forget, because he has, Muruganar Swami also said, there are great things they say. Padattai parav vaitar, paravarku arulum vaitar. Outstretched, he kept his legs. To those who serve those feet, his blessings. That's how it goes.
Padathai parava vaitar, paravivar karulum vaitar, vedathai
the programs of our
Sulochana, blessing the soul of the state, he has been blessed in that, in being able to be totally involved as a lifetime task in making available. So she will talk about that. These are things which are not done for people. They are done for our own Atma, for fulfilling ourselves. We get joy to think and talk, present to dance about the unique force. To come to serve is a great opportunity. What do you want to do? No. So these are who has all his joy or anything is like to reflect. Everybody has all his joy, everybody is ordered to own life.
Well, events are fast, events happen as they must. But always you can be related to the Supreme Force through music and dance, as really takes you in as it can, provided you don't look at it with eyes of mind or the intellect, wanting to enjoy something which is enjoying all the time. Different it is. Music should be different. Dance should be different. Dimensions of day varies. It's part and integral purpose. The temple was the source of all. See, the temple was the source. So, worship of God without that, what do you got in music or dance? You take away the essence of it. If you see read great works like Bharata and all that, they all say by all means educate, but entertain people. Good theatre arrangements, good music, people will be fascinated. But we don't have values because the values are so, not that they're absent, they have to be kindled. It is in us. Nobody creates a value, it's in us. We are born with values. This is the land of India. Heritage is so rich. So these values, I should say, is forgotten values. Not altogether lost.
Everyone has got the potential. That potential to get involved in music and therefore in himself. Not escape from the surrounding situations in life, fast life. Very tough, fast track. Even now, even sometimes in Ramanacentre, there are such things of such a fast track. And it's what you must wondering. Are we doing all this favor, forgetting the purpose of being related to one for whom we are saying ourselves? So demanding is not present something. You cannot just do that. Your attention has to be totally on something else. And the mind is not to go to multi-area. That's why you have to make this chapter for consciousness. This is an environment, but in this, sometimes the work is suggested, correct.
So we got involved in the work itself and not the one who is inspiring the whole thing. We have no time to reflect, no time to get the meaning of all this into ourselves, and we carry on with those limitations. So it's all for us to reflect on those propositions. I have no solutions. Each individual's life is different. But one thing is sure, that Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi is the center and the circumference. He is the totality. Where is the center, where is the circumference? When one is the totality. He is the totality of this universe, and therefore, in our attempt to be related to Him, we have arrived to a point in our lives which becomes meaningful. With flowering takes time, but when it flowers, it's not the kind of flower which fades. As nature's flowers must fade, it's the flower which blossoms your life. So it's of a different category. So it is, we are very happy today. We are embarked on a great enterprise called Ramana music, which is, really speaking, the compositions of Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi, the compositions of great saints on him, and new streams also, which are all set to music and notated and published. So that is available